This week marks the last week of the course. Congratulations! I hope you found the material interesting, and I hope you found creating and implementing a self-management project useful in your everyday life. ABA is a fascinating field that has far-reaching implications and uses in almost every area of human life, from school and domestic to large corporate structures and world government policies. There's a saying that ABA practitioners like to say, and it's "save the world with ABA." When you understand how humans learn and how the environment impacts behavior, you can certainly see how we might actually be able to affect major change in our everyday world for the better. Changing behavior can be relatively easy. Maintaining that change over time is the difficult part. So how do we ensure that behavior change can last? One thing we can do is plan for a thinning schedule of reinforcement. Remember that when we are first building a new behavior in someone's repertoire, that behavior has to be reinforced immediately and consistently after each instance. This is not a schedule that can be maintained forever. By switching to a more random, more sporadic schedule of reinforcement, called an intermittent schedule of reinforcement, we can make a more durable behavior. One of the best examples of how intermittent schedules create durable behavior is thinking about a slot machine. You are only reinforced every once in a while during a session at the slots, but the behavior can continue for incredibly long stretches without any reinforcement. Not knowing when or where the reinforcement is going to come can be a very powerful strategy. How do we go about thinning reinforcement effectively? The first step is to make sure the behavior is strong and fully learned. Then, begin to slowly and gradually reduce the rate at which it contacts reinforcement. If you had been at a constant schedule of reinforcement, start to reinforce only 75% of the time, then 65% of the time, and so on. It is important to continue to monitor changes in the data while thinning the schedule, as we can move too quickly and inadvertently affect our progress. This image shows what behavior looks like on different types of reinforcement schedules. Many research studies have been done with animals and humans, and the patterns shown here are similar across species. The V's stand for variable. This means a range of values that are used, and only those numbers will result in reinforcement. R stands for ratio. This means a specific quantity of the behavior. I stands for interval, which means some sort of span of time. And F stands for fixed, which means a set number. If we have a VR schedule, that would mean that on average, the individual is reinforced for X amount of the behavior. An example of this would be a person completing tasks on a job and receiving a bonus, sometimes for completing 3 items and sometimes for completing 10. A fixed ratio, on the other hand, would be a person gets a bonus every time they finish 6 items, always. We can see that the best rates of responding are with the variable ratio, and that is because it's unpredictable. Another extremely important component to consider when trying to ensure behavior change is maintained is making sure you have natural reinforcement contingencies in place. If your everyday life does not provide reinforcement for the behavior, and you can't keep programmed reinforcement in place, the behavior will be put on extinction. It is important to think about natural reinforcers from the beginning. Try to plan for some sort of social reinforcement to be part of the plan. Recruit others to watch for the behavior and reinforce it. A good example of this is support groups. Also, make sure the environment will provide opportunities for you to engage in the changed behavior. If you targeted increased public speaking but never have the opportunity to engage in that behavior, you'll have to think of some ways to allow yourself opportunities to practice that behavior in your environment. Perhaps making a list of town hall meetings or public forums, or taking a class a semester where public speaking is a requirement. If there's no opportunity to engage in the behavior, there's no opportunity for a reinforcement. You also want to plan for stimulus generalization and train with everyday antecedents. Doing this requires planning and careful consideration of what context the behavior should occur in and in the presence of what antecedents. Practicing in the natural environment and in many different situations can help aid in stimulus generalization and to widen the antecedents that can gain stimulus control over behavior. If you see that your progress is slipping, try to set up additional intervention phases called booster sessions. This can give the behavior a little jump start and get you back on the right track. Another great way of maintaining behavior is having a buddy system in place. Find someone who is also trying to change a similar behavior and make it a point to discuss progress and challenges. This can keep motivation up and provide social support and additional reinforcement that can keep you in the right direction.